Want to start? Welcome everybody to our joint meeting between the City Council and Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission, special meeting, November 18, 2021. The time is 6:03 p.m. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. Could we please remain standing for a moment of silence for first responders and military members? Thank you. Could we get City Council roll call, please, Monica?
Roll call. Councilmember Soto?
Present.
Councilmember Moran? Councilmember King?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Present.
Mayor Aguilar?
Present.
For the record, Councilmember Moran is not in attendance and his absence is not excused.
The Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission, roll call, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Fernandez? Here. Commissioner Bedstart? Here. Commissioner Estrada? Commissioner Becerra? He's present. Oh, okay. Commissioner Milan? Commissioner Godinez? Commissioner Dole? Commissioner Herrera? He's walking in. Okay. Commissioner Marshall? That's it, right? Okay.
Thank you, Monica. Council or Recs Commission, any changes to the agenda? None? I don't see any. We're going to go ahead and move on to our citizen comments. Members of the public wishing to address the council at this time, please move forward. The allotment will be the same as 3 minutes as normally allowed in meetings, subject to our provision. At a special meeting, members of the public wishing to address the council or Parks, Recs, Arts Commission may do so at this time. No, under the provision of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking any action on any items on the agenda. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. Any citizen comments at this time? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our discussion and potential action item, which is number 1, discussion and direction on the parks and facility fee increase, youth sports fee increase, and non-resident fee adjusted for youth sports, parks, and facility rentals. And now, Jackie, you prepared a PowerPoint, correct?
Can you repeat that, please?
No, I just mentioned that you have a PowerPoint prepared. So.
And it's going to be concise. So one of the things that I want to make sure is that when on this PowerPoint, we're going to get to areas of change, and they're all highlighted in yellow. And at that point, we can discuss, because it's really not an all or nothing policy. This meeting is to discuss and make changes if necessary. So if I can figure out how to work this. I apologize for the size of some of the stuff that I gave you on the slide. So I did make another copy, and I did give them. So hopefully you guys got the big packet that's not microscopic. So we all know what the purpose is to have fees. And I'm not going to go over all of them because we have done this. But if anybody has questions on this first page, feel free to. We'll just go page by page. You can bring it up. Next is how we determine our fees, and honestly, it's a little bit of everything. You know, we want to keep the market, or we want to charge a price that our residents can afford. And so this is all of the things that we take into account when we are looking at our fees. Okay, our next page. So before we get to the fees, we need to take a look at the changes that the Rec Commission has recommended, because that's going to take into account the fees that we propose. So, you know, we have different classes. If you're a class 1, that's anything to do with the rec department. So class 2 would be nonprofits that are resident nonprofits. Class 3 is just our community, our residents here, and class 4 is non-residents. So the very first change that we talked about was our community leagues having 51% of the league being verified residents. And the change is actually down where it has the resident team description. The original policy is it was 75%. And then the 51%, and then the ways they have to verify is on the bottom. So that would be something that we would be putting into the policy. Does anybody have any comments regarding these things?
No, I just have a general question. I know
Sure.
it was 75%. Just you want to speak a little bit of the reasoning behind it to move it down to 51, or?
Livingston is not huge, and this really is for leagues that are traveling. It is not our kids and, you know, even outside kids that come in to be a part of our rec program. And so if they want to use our fields or whatever, 70, if you're at a travel level, getting all your league, which it makes up more than one team, to be 75% is tough. So that is just, does any of you guys want to comment on our reasoning too, or put input for the 75%? Well, it would take a policy change, so if it's something that we really don't want to do, now's the time, so when we present it, that we say, nope, 75% is what we want. And I would ask that we too, even though for the 75%, that we still keep in the highlighted area below, because we didn't have that spelled out on what they have to do to prove that they're residents.
Commissioners? Go, Julio?
I think what one thing was for some of the clubs, like majority is soccer. A lot of kids are not, they can't get strictly teams from Livingston. It's such a small town, so they do get kids from other towns wanting to join the club. So that was kind of the main thing of why we dropped it to 51%. They still have the name of Livingston. They want to represent Livingston. The majority of the kids are from Livingston. But there's going to be certain teams that don't have a full 75% is from Livingston. That was one of the main reasons.
And then, so yeah, based on, I mean, I know you are very involved with soccer and I know baseball. That's your experience in some of the situations. Obviously, 75 is pretty high.
Yeah, and then once they get older, they start kind of weeding out. So you go from like 40 kids to 8, you know? Like the people, once it gets more competitive, you know, it's a little more serious, and some people are kind of out. And I mean, we end up getting kids from Delhi. They're all from local area. We don't get kids from
Far away.
far away. It just lives in small. Delhi's small, and sometimes we get Turlock kids too. So.
And a lot of this, like Delhi, there's a lot of family here and extended family, and Atwater, same thing.
So if I'm seeing it correctly, they still have to prove that they're a student at Livingston School District. Either way.
Everybody has to prove, if they say they're a resident, everybody has to prove they are.
So the 51% would have to show that they're.
51 or 75, whichever they still would need to prove.
So if they're coming in as a travel team, they're still not going to make that cut.
Well, we have different leagues in softball, baseball, and where the teams are formed. here with Livingston coaches, but some of their players, they may not have 51% of the team that they were able to draw from Livingston for various reasons. Either they weren't up to the level that they could compete there, or maybe their family couldn't afford for the kids to play, because really once you get up into those levels, it's more expensive. So there's just, a variety of reasons as to why we couldn't get only Livingston kids to be a part of the travel teams.
Just so long as they're still a student within our district, right?
No, the 51% would have to
No.
fall under.
That's just different ways to prove they are residents from Livingston. The 51%, so then in the team or the organization, 51% to be considered Livingston or a home team, 51% have to be from Livingston and have to show proof they are from Livingston.
I think the line in here that's being mistaken is if they are living in the Livingston school district, but they live outside of Livingston, say they live in Cressy or Belico, they can still be considered Livingston resident because they are part of the school district, so they can help make up that 51%. I think that was the line that was being crossed right now.
And then, as these rentals come across, I remember the discussion was that if there were several teams that met the percentage, but also wanted to utilize the facility at the same time, it would have been a first-come, first-served basis. Is that still the plan?
It would be residents would be honored first.
So meaning like the residents, like the class 1 would have first come, first serve for that area before, say, class 2. Is that kind of what you're saying? Or is it
No.
if they have more than 51%, then if they had, say, 70% of their team, then they would get to come first?
So if you are considered a resident team, which would make up of 51%, you would have priority use over a non-resident team. And that's the way it's always been, regardless of what we have, that's the way we've always honored it.
So if there were two that fit that class and both met the resident, what is your next?
Whoever comes and pays first, then that's the way it would be even for picnic rentals, first come, first serve, if it's relating to both being residents.
Any other questions, council? Or rec commissioners? So everybody okay with the 51%? You want to go to the next?
Okay. So then this just kind of talks about the priority of user groups. Again, there would be a change on item number 3 to 51% from the 75%. All the other verbiage is already in our policy. Okay. So proof of residency required on the community leagues. We are just reiterating in the highlighted area what we had 2 pages prior on resident team description on what they would need to do to prove that they are a community league. Okay. Okay, so this is new, and we're hoping that this will help us from a lot of the confusion that happens. We have teams that come in the day before and want to rent a facility that we have to have staff for. And then they change it. And so what we're trying to do is for any of these leagues that want to rent facilities from us, that they do it on a quarterly basis. And you can see how we've got it lined out here. We've just tried to think of ways that we're not dealing with people every day. We do, we don't, we do, we don't. Once they are locked in, if they don't tell us 10 days prior to usage, just like on our regular rentals, then they would not get a refund because we've already gone out to get staff. This would apply to leagues that are using fields that we have to supply staff for.
Commissioners, any comments or questions about this section? Council? Questions, comments? So right now, you're dealing basically with the public on a daily, regular basis, and
Right, and we have tried, the bottom part where we have tried getting them to at least do like 30 days. And if they don't have the money to pay this big amount, then we let them pay at the end of each week, which cuts down some and tries to help them out. But we would just like something in writing so that we can just be consistent with everybody.
and if there's an issue in regards to, like, for example, the league's not gonna, or the team's not gonna continue on, like refund-wise and all of that, there'll be a process.
As long as it's 10 days prior to the next use, they can have it back. What we're trying to get away from is them calling on Friday because they have Saturday games and they're not going to be able to use the field. So if they give us warning, they're going to get everything back. It's just them following procedure.
All right, want to move on to the next? You guys are good?
So since 2008, you can just see the additional facilities that we have below. We did take out, our Kalian did have a small ball field, that was removed. And then the facilities, the rec center, which used to be this room and kitchen, we're removing that. Adding the Walnut, that center large room at the Walnut Childcare, and then down below, all the parks that we've had added on since 2008. Any questions on that? Okay. All right. The next page is the class non-resident fee. Most cities charge 20 to 25% more than the cost of whatever it is that the child is signing up for a non-resident fee. We'd like to break this in because we do have a lot of people that come in from Winton or Delhi and they don't have programs at all. And so we have recommended just an additional $5 fee for the non-resident fee rather than 25%.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Council? You just want to talk a little bit about how you guys came to
Sure. Well, the reason a lot of other municipalities, I'm not going to say all because I don't know every single solitary one, but the reason that you would charge a non-resident fee is because people that are not residents do not pay any taxes into the upkeep of any of our facilities or towards taxes towards wages, anything. So there is a reasoning as to why we could charge this. And like I said, we're not doing 25% or 20%. We're just going to charge a flat $5. Anybody out there?
Could you just give an example of what that might look like a different city, of their costs for a non-resident at that 25%?
So if you have a $50 class that they pay for, let's say they're doing karate for $50, and even, I'll do 20 because I can think of that in my head, 20% would be an additional $10 a month on a $50 class, and where we would only charge $5. And our karate actually is $45, so it would be, $7 or $8 if we went by the 20% even.
You guys good?
And our prices generally are low, that non-residents would be happy to pay $5 versus, even going to another town where they possibly would pay more.
if I could chime in and say, I represent a lot of other cities, this is extremely reasonable compared to everybody else. Yeah.
And again, our whole reasoning is not to gouge any of our residents because we know people are different walks, different, but we do want to start making less of an impact on our general fund if possible. Okay, so the next, page 8, is our park and field rules. The ones that are not highlighted are the only rules that we had in our policy. And as we've had more events and more activities going on, we have needed to add, like, licensed dog on a leash allowed in the park when no city events are scheduled. Because if we don't have these rules also posted, then the likelihood of PD doing anything because it's not posted, it just makes it extremely difficult. So we added no pets and animals during city-sponsored events, and that pet owners are responsible for their dogs and their waste and the safety of others. No littering, we added. The use of play equipment and facilities is at your own risk. No unauthorized sale of merchandise, which we do have sometimes problems with. And then the park hours are 6 a.m. to dark, and that this would be a part of the Livingston Municipal Code 98-1.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Council?
Yeah, so on Memorial Park, I've noticed that sometimes they take vehicles up where the picnic area is. Would they still continue to do that or no?
Can you say that again? I didn't quite hear what you were saying.
At the Memorial Park, and when somebody rents that out, they end up taking the vehicle all the way to where the tables are at? Would they be able to still do that?
No, we don't want any vehicles because they run over sprinklers. One of the things that we have in our master plan that we also want to bring to you guys is to have it paved from in front of the Alvernez field gate all the way back to Hammett Hall. Then that way, if people need to come and unload, they would be on the pavement, but they wouldn't be allowed to park there. It would just be like a loading and unloading. And two, when we go into the park, even with, how big my van is, or even the city trucks, I mean, if it's wet, it's gonna leave dents, and so it would really be nice to eventually have that paved. Okay. Were we done with that one? Whoops. Okay, I think I did something wrong. Sorry, guys. All right, so if there were no questions on those changes above, we can go on to the proposed increases because everything is taken into account of any changes. So what we did was we were originally asked back several years ago to do a study. So these fees are actually from 2019, right before COVID. So for youth baseball, you can see the prices that all the other areas charge. And Livingston is at $60 for t-ball, $70 for baseball, $70 for softball. So then we calculated the cost. The city cost for the lower division is about $55. The upper division, it goes up to $105. So after discussion with the Rec Commission, what we recommended was kind of offsetting it a little bit. The lower division, go ahead and keep it at the same price, but raising the upper division to $85 so that it would kind of balance out. And then again, the Rec Commission wants to continue to help find ways to keep the costs low. For instance, them buying all brand new baseball equipment through their fundraisers. And, they're getting ready to some maintenance on little guys that they've raised funds to be able to do. So they're very aware, but even at the prices that we're charging, we're still lower basically than anybody else.
Commissioners, any comments?
Yeah, one of the main reasons for the increase was because we went through in every sport program, and we had to kind of cut out cost. And we did as much as we could. We went from coaches not getting jerseys. So that was the last resort. Other than that, it's start canceling programs. So that was one of the major reasons we thought this was a better idea, was to increase the pricing, because if not, we're gonna have to start canceling programs.
And just, do you want to, Jackie, explain a little bit how the recreation budget kind of, what is it composed of, how it's, the funds, like it's coming from, general fund and all that stuff?
Actually, we are totally funded by the general fund. And Vanessa, feel free to chime in if I am not totally accurate on something. But we are funded by the general fund and then any user fees that we collect. So what we try to do is that we try to think of if you're, playing baseball, what are the things that you're going to be paying for? Well, your jersey. You're going to be paying for the half. We do now pay for half of the coach so that we can get coaches, half their kids' fee. We also pay for all of the staff, and as you know, staff in 2008 went from 7-something an hour, and we are now in January at almost 15. With all the little incidentals, it's actually more like $18 an hour. So with the upper division, when we have to pay 2 referees to do a game, and those kids are making $15 minimum at an hour, upper division has 2-hour games, they're paying $120 for staff just for that one game. So it's tough. And actually for soccer, we have tried like doing 1 referee, and it is extremely difficult when you get to the 14-year-old level. The little kids, it works out okay to just have 1 umpire or referee, but when you start getting to the kids that are really getting ready to go into the older travel type ball, it's tough to only have 1 official.
Vanessa, I know your finance hat, use your finance hat, but so the rec programs are supplemented by the general fund, obviously. Has there been an ongoing increase as the years have progressed, as far as you know?
Absolutely. We know that the general fund heavily subsidizes the recreation program, which it's normal for many cities to do that, just because recreation, it is deemed an investment to our population, our kids, the youth, the elderly. But at the same time, Jackie it's working, and we acknowledge that with our fees need to be reviewed in order to make that impact, less of an impact to the general fund.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I know in the city here, we kids get a jersey, a hat, for example, umps. Other cities, like I know their fees are higher, but do they get additional? What do they get? How you guys like? I know you did some research. Do they get like 2 jerseys or more umps or nothing like that?
No.
I know at one point we used to include the picture packet back in the day.
Right, and the more of an impact, especially with like our wages going up and up and up for minimum wage, it's like, okay, how much? Those picture packets were $15 a kid. We'll time that times 400 kids. It was, and we've, the parents do realize that.
Jackie, can you use your mic? They can't hear.
Oh, sorry. The parents do realize the value in what we do charge. And so, like I said, the way we come up with the fees, it's a little bit of what is the market bearing, what do other cities, So this is,
Commissioners, any other questions, comments? I know a lot of you guys are coaches or have coached in the past. So what are your thoughts?
And then you can see certain sports kind of are more expensive to run than the other ones. So we kind of try to, with the increases, try to help cover the expenses. Like baseball is a little more expensive to cover than it is soccer due to the fact that we do have, in multiple places, we have multiple things going on. So it takes more staff to make sure everything's being run right. So that's one thing that also hurts us also, is that we don't have one area where we can have everybody, and it require less staff. So then the cost would be able to go down, or the expenses.
Based on your guys' experience as coaches, I know you guys talk to your parents and all that. What are the feedback you're getting in regards to any potential increases or?
I talk to a lot of parents, and a lot of them just want programs. So they're willing to pay the increase to keep the programs going. And please don't forget that if there's a child out there that can't afford to play, Jackie rallies and finds sponsorships for that child to play. A majority of the parents can afford to put their kids in at our costs now. And as a commission too, I don't think we would turn away any child that couldn't afford to play. And we would rally together and find a way to get that child's fees paid. So I talked to a lot of parents, and you know, especially after COVID, they were just so anxious to get their kids out there and back into the community, back into the camaraderie with their friends and family, people celebrating again, back to the parks. So they're willing to pay the increase to keep the programs going. It's going to be a really sad if we have to get rid of another program, because we already had to cut, you guys know we had to cut swimming, and that was just a big bummer to a lot of the families. A lot of the working families are really sad that we don't do the summer day camps anymore. A lot of the things are already missed, so I think we have to take action now and raise the prices just a little that we're asking for in order to keep these other programs still going, and hopefully try to find ways to bring those old programs back.
Any other comments? And thank you for bringing that up, because that was, in the past, I've brought that concern. I know when it was brought up, that you just want to ensure that considering our population, you know, not everybody, more and more Livingston's becoming a middle-class town, but I know there's still obviously a lot of low-income families in our community, and that was a concern I always brought up, that just ensure that if somebody cannot afford it or whatever the case may be, we're able to help out. I know we always have, and you know, we all sponsored kids or teams and all that, so just want to ensure that that's somehow documented or identified, so that won't be a concern. In regards to other programs, I know obviously COVID slowed things down, and but I know that for the swimming and those programs, hopefully we'll be able to get those back and running as situation changes and moving forward. And I think the council will support all of that, and I know Vanessa would too, in regards to using some funds towards financing or supporting those programs. I don't think that would be a problem. Any other questions or comments? Council?
I just got a quick question. So were those programs cut because of the pandemic or because of the funding? Funding.
it was a little of both, actually.
So half and half? 50?
Because, well, you know, the whole pool situation, that's a whole nother discussion, actually. But it was, we'll just say the pandemic just pushed us over the edge.
Yes.
But we would, at some point, like to bring it back, because they are much loved, especially those two programs.
Thank you.
Yeah, because that was my impression, that it was cut because of the swimming pool, not because of funding. I didn't know it was because of funding.
We had to give a lot of refunds.
The pool was cut for something else, but we did have to cut the swim team due to financial decisions we had to make some cuts. So those were two separate things. So the pool was one thing, but we had a swim team here, and that did have to get cut due to financial decisions.
Any other?
I think last year, the year before,
It was
2019,
about,
we had to do a budget cut of 40,000, and that was what we went with, was that one. The swimming. In the after-school program? Oh, the summer day camp, that those two things was affected.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So youth basketball, we actually are not going, due to us not giving every single kid a basketball and trying to have one of the practices a week outside, we were able to work it to where we didn't have to do any increases on basketball. So you can see what the costs are versus.
Commissioners, any questions or comments about this item?
The feedback from soccer, we did the same thing for soccer. The coaches didn't get shirts. And we did not order the soccer balls. The soccer balls were not that good anyways, and the parents were fine and happy with them bringing their own soccer balls because they all like it to match their kids' stuff. And so that was a very positive feedback from my teams.
For basketball, they still get their jersey, right? They get jersey and shorts?
No, just a
jersey, huh?
jersey. Mhm. And their medal.
And the Jordans? We still giving them Jordans?
Didn't our city
my
attorney
stipend?
say he wanted to donate Jordans for all the kids?
Let's do it. And then for soccer, they get their jersey and shorts, right? No?
No, all they get is a jersey.
There's a jersey?
And their medal.
And they're,
And they get, staff. That's probably one of our biggest. Huh? Yeah, and the paint that it takes to even mark all those fields is crazy.
I have a question.
Sure.
On soccer, where it says the Livingston says $50 and 60, and then but the recommended is 35. So it's currently 60. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's currently 50.
50.
Right.
But you are recommending to go to 35.
That's for our 3 and 4-year-olds, yeah.
Okay.
Their actual cost is $29.21. And so, since they don't have any staff, we felt like it was just best to charge them $35 and then go ahead and go up $5 on our bigger kids.
Okay. So cost is 29 something.
$29.21.
Okay.
also, one of the things with the Pee-wee, if you guys have ever had any of your kids in the Pee-wee, it's pretty much just 8 practices that the kids, they actually don't have any games.
yeah.
So compared to the other divisions, they have games, they have their practices, and obviously for a game, we also need to staff the games, and we need to have the fields marked and so forth. So that's one of the reasons too why there's such a difference in the cost between the lower division and the upper division.
That makes sense, because usually it's just the coach running it with the help of the parents running it. Any other questions, comments?
All right, park rentals. So I put it in a nutshell at the top because the survey is in the blue on the bottom, if you can see what everybody else charges. So Class 3 and Class 4 are really the only groups that are affected with an increase. Everybody else is staying the same. Everything else pretty much stays the same. So a class 3, of course, is the residents. What we are proposing is go from $30 to $40. Now, if you go down and look at what everybody else is charging, us with the electricity, those fees do not include the electricity. We're still, 18, 20, 50, 62, 42, 43% lower than all the other outlying areas. Class 4 non-residents, it was 84, and this is subject to discussion, but if we go 20% higher on all across the board on the non-residents, it was a lot more than 20%. So we just went from $40 to $60 for the 20% increase on class 4. But again, this is, if you want to leave it for the non-residents at 84, we're good with that. We were just trying to be consistent across the.
When it comes to renting our facilities, do we get a lot of, what are the numbers? Do we get a lot of people from out of town renting our facilities?
Well, not really. We don't have a lot. And then if you live in Winton and you have your tia that lives here, you're going to have her come and rent it. And that's what we've found happens a lot. So.
Yeah, for sure. Commissioners, any questions or comments? What are your thoughts about dropping it for class 4? You guys okay with that or leave it?
I think with the information that Jackie, and obviously we don't get that many out-of-resident people renting it. I think if we got a lot of out-of-resident people renting it, I think it would be even better to go up, but we're maybe getting 2 or 3. It's not really that many. It's all people that ask a family member to come and rent it for them anyway. So the benefit's not really there to charge more money. They're not really even we're not even seeing that money come in.
Council, any questions, comments? Just general question. Have you seen an increase in like rentals? How's the rentals going on for facilities?
We, from about First Communion time until September, every facility, every week. And so you'll see later on, I am proposing that we have a few facilities to add, like the 3 picnic shelters at Gallo Park. But we will be used every waking moment, and then people will actually just come in the park and set up an area if they couldn't get the picnic area. Our parks are very heavily used.
Okay, any other questions, guys? Comments? All right.
Okay, so here are the field rentals requiring staff supervision. Odie Ortiz, soccer field, class 2 and 3. Right now, they're paying $14 an hour without lights, and we actually go in the hole if somebody rents because we're paying more staff than what we're collecting. So we are recommending that we go to $18 an hour. And if our minimum wage keeps going up, we may have to come back again just to be able to cover. Class 4, it was at $16.20 an hour, and we're recommending it go to $22. For the rental of the lights, which alone are $20 an hour, class 2 and 3, we're looking at going from $236 per hour to $46.20. Class 4, 38 to 54. And then we are also wanting to add field prep. People have wanted us to field prep, but the paint is so crazy, and it takes really 2 people to get it set up square. Those are the prices if they want us to prepare the field for them. They must be desperate if they want us to prepare. Otherwise, they need to prepare their own with lines and whatever else. And then when we go to Alvernez, it's the same. We wanted to keep the same prices for both. so that everything wasn't totally different, except for the field prep. It is not as detailed for field prep for Alvernez, but the prices for the rental are the same as the soccer field.
Are you guys doing a lot of field prep for the soccer currently?
No, because when I told them how much just to break even it was going to be with the help and stuff, people just want to do it themselves.
Have we done it in the past?
No,
Okay.
not on my watch.
Okay.
So,
Commissioners, questions?
okay.
Any comments, council? Go ahead, Jackie.
All right, so new fees for facilities and services offered. The addition of 3 shelters at Joseph Gallo, and it seats 12 per shelter. And so for class 2 and 3, we recommend $15 because they can only seat 12, not 200, which the other parks can. And class 4 would be $18 for the 20%. And there is no electricity available. Batting cages at Alvernez, we have not offered that prior, and it is something that the council had requested a number of years back. It's just if they're willing to pay for the staff to go out there. So class 2 and class 3 would be $36 for the 2-hour minimum, and class 4 would be $44 for the 2-hour minimum. The other thing is we're getting lights in the Max Foster Basin. And so we'd like to propose half the basin per hour with a 2-hour minimum and no lights. And I say no lights. There's not sporting like arena lights. It's just going to be big street lights that'll be facing towards the park that will give enough light for a practice. And we are looking at $10 an hour for resident teams or residents, and $12 an hour for non-residents.
Thanks for bringing the batting cages option. I know a lot of people have asked access to those. Commissioners, any questions, comments? The only question about the basin, I know like in general, people just go out there and use it or whatever. You're talking, this is more specific to like an organized event or groups?
It would be an organized practice because right now we get them fighting out there over it. And so at least if somebody comes in and they pay to reserve, and we don't have staff out there in the basin because we don't have to have anybody go inside the snack bar and turn lights on. And really, that is the main reason that when we rent it and have to have staff, it's either a locked facility or we have to let them into an alarmed building to have access to the lights, which is not, we're not going to happen. You know, we wouldn't want that. So that's why that's so inexpensive. But at least somebody could come and reserve it.
Yeah. So I was going to say that it's just basically working as reserving the area for their team or practice. Any questions, comments?
So the batting cages and the new lighting for Max Foster, when you speak of staff going out there, is that them to supervise the 2 whole hours or just to open up the facilities, turn on the lights, turn on the equipment?
No, for the batting cages, somebody has to be there. The liability is too great. And so that is paying a minimum wage person to be out there for the 2 hours. Which basically, what the figure you see is it's consumed with just staff hours. It's not wear and tear on the machine, balls, or anything like that.
And the new lighting at the Max Foster Field, it's like generators that you're using, light towers?
No, it is, can you explain it a little better, Vanessa? Because you actually worked with Tony on putting those in.
Oh, they're just regular light poles that are being installed at the Max Foster and Joseph Gallo to provide lighting for those groups that come and train at the facility or use the facility for training, and they go after school hours and it gets dark soon. So they're just regular lights.
And it's, I'm sure, like our street lights come on with the sensor, that's how those will come on, so staff won't have to go out there and.
Right.
Which it really is a good idea to have more light in those basins, because if you live over there, you know how dark it is down in there. And we've had to chase people with four-wheelers and stuff that have gone down there and had fun.
Batting cages, obviously the teams will still have access, like our city baseball teams will have access like they always had.
Correct.
How about like traveling teams? This is where it will take effect, right?
Well, traveling teams are still going to have to pay something, because who's going to pay the bill for staff to go out and open and close? That's, so, like you said, those prices right there are staff. It's nothing, no frills, no perks, nothing. It's just the staff, to pay for staff to go out there.
Robert, Julio, other cities, I know there's private areas where there's batting cages, you obviously pay a certain fee.
So depending on the organization, they have their own setups or their own contracts with different facilities. But obviously they're charging their kids roughly about $12,000 to $2,000 a year plus extras to use those facilities. So you're talking about indoor batting cages, completely enclosed facilities. That's a little different than what we have here.
Yeah, this is pretty inexpensive. You're gonna be paying a lot, like, if you wanna use the facilities he's talking about. So, I mean, it's beneficial, the weather's good, that's not bad, so. I mean, you don't need it more than 2 hours, so it'll be good.
Okay.
The batting cages, by the way, is this just an organized group and team, or is it a private use party?
It would be whoever rents
Like
it.
birthday party?
Well, if it's a birthday party, if it's just some dad wants to go out and hit balls for 2 hours with his kid, it's open.
Any other questions?
Yes, quick question, Jackie. Regards to the basin at Foster, have we ever had any issues with someone renting it and then somebody else coming along or someone renting it and somebody else already being there using it and kind of like getting not
Well,
sure?
we've never had the basin even available for that. People just go down there and it's first come, first serve. If up above, I can say a lot of the travel teams know each other and kind of try to work together, at least for scheduling. So we haven't had, there was with the soccer, down in the basin where people thought they were getting it and they were getting it for nothing. We had like three different leagues show up, and even leagues coming from out of the area.
Yeah, and then also you have, if you're practicing in the basin, you have the baseball fields. So if you're paying to rent that, because obviously you have residents that want to use them, you're paying for that area, because you had kids practicing with people playing baseball and almost getting hit with baseball. So people would prefer to pay that to make sure that they can call the city and say, hey, I rented this whole area so I can practice, so my kids can practice safely. And then we don't have to worry about, well, if it's first come, first serve, it's up to anybody. And that's the main thing, is the $10 is just to make sure you reserve that area for that time. Not mostly lights, it's just for, just like using the picnic area. Anybody can go there and use the picnic area, but if you pay, it's reserved for you.
So pretty much 2 people show up and say, well, here's my contract, and hopefully they'll get it resolved without having to call anybody.
Because they would be probably the only ones that would be able to look at the receipt. Well, we really haven't, we always tell people, take your receipt and your copy of your rental agreement with you, so if somebody does try that, you can show them. I don't think that we really, except for that one time, but we had no control over that because nobody rented it. Everybody was just free-for-all in it.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay. Here comes the pool, and you can see the price increases. So just a little history, lifeguards have to go through a $300 to $400 class to become a lifeguard. Their certification is now good for 2 years. It used to be 3 years. And so it's very typical that starting out as a lifeguard, you're going to make $1 to $2 more than minimum wage just because of the education that you have gone through. So this is based, again, if the minimum wage keeps going up, and for rentals, and this is for pool rentals, we may have to look into this again to see how accurate this is going to come out. But you can see the prices going from $60 to $82, and it's based just on the $17 plus a 20% benefit.
Commissioners, any questions, comments?
And really, if you think about it, if you want to bring your kids' class of 50 people to a pool party for 2 hours and you only pay $82, that's still dirt cheap if you ever looked into renting a pool anywhere.
And then the deposit is obviously just for all the facilities, just for the record, obviously it's
Yeah.
collected and then returned.
Mm-hmm.
Council, any questions regarding this?
Jackie, on this specifically, because mostly it's based on the costs for lifeguards. And if wages go up, obviously, we gotta pay them more. And sometimes hoping that we don't have to wait 10 years until we go back and revisit this. Would it be okay or even doable to consider to approve it like what you're recommending, but do approve it with the 2 or 3% increase annually to go along with wages if needed? Because even in 5 years, it would be normally probably 15%, roughly.
And that is something that I really would like to talk to Vanessa about, so that every time we wanted to raise something $2, what a pain it's going to have to be to go through all of this. But we put a formula in place that, as things increase, that we would be able to raise it within a certain amount without having to come back to have you guys relook at everything. I mean, I don't know what the legalities of it are, but I do know, if you know how we're figuring things out and what we need to cover, that formula would be stated so that if we do raise, it's according to the formula.
Yeah, once you exceed your max, then you have to do 2 notices in the paper and schedule it to, usually adopt them by resolution here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to take that action.
Does anybody have any questions about the pool? No? And with that was this just included, you guys all got a copy of our fee policy. And now it just has the highlighted areas in it as to what we were looking on here. And then once the fees are approved, then those fees would go into the policy.
Jackie, you want to talk a little bit about the history of when's the last time fees were increased and?
Well, this policy was developed in 2008, so it has been, how many years? 20, no, 2008, 12 years. 13 years since we have visited this. And I have to say that council has not really wanted to raise, because in the past too, we have had a lot more low-income families, and I think that you guys also needed to see a track record that we do everything we can. We will not turn a kid away. We will figure out a way that they can play. But for the people that can afford it, our option is, if we don't want to have to cut programs. And, really, here's the best case scenario. Let's just play everything for free, and then you guys could just subsidize us that amount, and then everybody would just play for free. No, but seriously, we just want to have less of an impact on the general fund so that we can keep programs.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? I know you guys, some of you have been in the commission for some time, and I remember working with you guys about all this stuff in the past. So any additional comments? Omar?
I just want to make a quick comment. I've been on the commission for about 4 years now, and when I first came on the commission, this was already brought up about us looking at a way to increase these fees. It's been almost 3 to 4 years, and we're finally sitting down and we're getting to this, so I do really appreciate your guys' time. I do like that we're getting to this finally. Some of you that are sitting up there have been at our meetings previously, have heard us talk about this. Some of you have been even liaisons to the commission and have seen us talk about this. So one thing, I do appreciate us sitting down and finally getting this taken care of. Now going back to Mr. Garcia's comment, asking if the cutting of some of the programs were due to the pandemic. The pool and so forth, those were actually discussed in 2019. They were going to take effect in 2020. Obviously, the pandemic started in 2020. So just people are aware, and those that did not know about it, those cuts were pre-pandemic. The pandemic had nothing to do with it. So since then, we've been trying to figure out ways on how to increase some of our revenue, just to make it clear for some people out there. And yes, the pandemic did hurt us like it did everybody else, but we are lucky enough that some of the commissioners here, well, all of us here, and also including Jackie and some of the other people that are constant volunteers to our programs, we've been able to stick through it and find ways to get through it all and still offer the programs to the children. So going back to what I first said, it's been in the works for a few years, and I finally do appreciate that we've been able to sit down and get this taken care of. So thank you, guys.
Commissioners, any other comments, questions? Council, final thoughts, questions, comments? Staff?
I got something.
Go ahead, sorry.
So this question is for the city manager. Is there any way possible that maybe with the funding that we just got for the relief to add some money to this?
At the moment, the regulations do not, the program, it cannot fund ongoing operations of a program. It can only fund one-time projects. So it wouldn't fit, like funding for a recreation program would not fit within the categories that are eligible to fund, to use ARP money.
Okay, thank you.
I know we're expecting a surplus, potentially. I know that the recreation, the council and myself, a big supporter of the rec program, so I would like to see, I know we will have a discussion later in regards to our mid-budget review, and if that it still holds that we're expecting a surplus, I would like to have some discussions in regards to making sure some of those programs continue on and come back to life. So we're hoping, Vanessa, I don't know how much we could, I know you're not ready for a mid-budget review, but I know that's something we're expecting.
We're going to bring an item to council for review in regards to the closing our year end, so we can get direction on how to allocate some money that we have identified as surplus.
Thank you, Vanessa. So, the next steps for now, or you, Jackie, you want to?
Well, that's what I was just going to. So what our next step would be to then start the resolution process and the putting it in the paper for 2 weeks. And then we need to have a public hearing. Do I have to go through all this again?
That is correct. Fees are approved by a public hearing. It's it's written in our municipal code, so all fees, whenever they're approved, they have to go through this process. So you're correct, Jackie. We will
So
have to
would I
do
be
that.
able to just make like a chart that says it's going from this to this without all of the other information?
Tom?
I mean, I can
work
just,
on making something easy to
easy.
digest.
I think
To percent.
the answer is anything in yellow would be in the new resolution.
Because they should over 13 years.
Yeah.
have hopefully looked at this.
I have a question, Tom. And just in general, do all other, or some of the other jurisdictions, or based on your experience, is that the same process? They go through a public hearing in regards to fees?
Yes, yeah, any fees for anything in the city have to go through that, and it's the two-note, I forget, it's like Government Code Section 66016. Every time you raise a fee, you have to have two published twice in the newspaper, and then you have your public hearing and adopt them by resolution. We always say do it by resolution, not ordinance, because if they change, it's a lot easier to change a resolution than ordinance.
So so basically it'll be just direction to move forward with the recommendations. We don't need a vote, or should we take a vote, Tom, with your?
I would just give direction to staff to bring it back to you at a regular council meeting for discussion and potential
Well, and the whole
adoption.
purpose of this was if you had questions that we could have dialogue like we've been doing back and forth to hopefully make things clearer or changes where we wanted to change, and that kind of thing.
Thank you. So council, are you guys in agreement to give direction to bring this item for discussion and action to the next council meeting?
One question real quick, just for clarification. So in regards to that increase, that consideration of annual increase, is that something that could go in this, in the process, or is that something that you don't want or you don't recommend to have as part of it right now?
I think that we need to take a look at it probably and maybe get this, because one way or the other, we're going to have to come back to you with a recommendation on a formula or whatever it is. But at least we can start, like baseball we're going to start in January, taking registration. So it'd be really nice to have some of these things into effect so that we can count it in for next year's budget, because we're going to be working on that too.
So if that is for January, is that something that we need to, are we going to have enough time to implement it?
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out the dates with the notice and then getting it on the agenda, because it's, it's already, yeah.
So then once it's approved, does it take 30 days to kick in?
No, it's not like an ordinance.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Our water rates are that way, but not for this fees. Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of chime in with the comment that Councilmember Moran is making, or the recommendation that he's making. I think that moving, looking into what staff has prepared and proposed, it's definitely a step forward. It's definitely better than the rates of February 19, 2008. However, I do think that we will bring forward a revision of this fees at some point, because we're going to have wages increases. We're going to have just different components that come into play that will definitely make this rates look different than what we're proposing today. And at that point, I think that we can prepare some a fee study in which we can talk about, like, these are your fees for the next 5 years. And we can have a component of like CPI, some inflation that, like it's going to recognize that, like for the next 5 years, you approve these fees with 3% or like CPI based on some region, and we can have a mechanism to just increase those fees, annually without having to wait 13 years or so forth. And every 5 years, it will just be that flag for us too, to go back and review the fees, do a full comprehensive review of what we're spending, the efforts, and how we can make our programs more efficient.
Thank you. So is everybody in agreement to bring it to the next council meeting?
So can I follow up on that on that information? So is that fee increase analysis any different from what the commission has done already for the last 4 years? And then how much would that cost, more or less?
Well, the fee analysis, it looks at everything that it gets put in order to put in a program. I mean, the fee analysis will look beyond the staff time, the part-timer, or the kids preparing the field for 2 hours or something. The analysis will look into, in order for this kids to go out in the field and prepare the field, our recreation department has to give some sort of direction. So we need to incorporate a piece of that salary and that effort into that fee. So it will be something that it will be more comprehensive, and it will take into account any overhead, because we're collecting deposits where we're involving the finance team to take in the money, to refund the fee. So it will be a little bit more comprehensive than just taking into just a face value of 2 kids preparing a field and so forth.
But we're talking about that about a later time, we're not doing that right now.
Yes, I feel that, like this proposal, it's moving forward because our 2008 fees are very outdated, but definitely it would be very advantageous for our city to do a comprehensive review of those fees in order to see where our gaps and how we can provide better services, more streamlined, more efficiently.
And so the other part of my question was, do we have an idea? I mean, not exactly, but a rough idea on the cost of that possible study?
Normally, these studies range between $5,000 to $10,000.
That'll be at a later time, and
it
they'll
would-
still be up to if we want to move forward with that or just base it off what you guys already recommended. I mean, I wouldn't want to spend, that money necessarily.
I believe as a commissioner, what we've been asked to be on this committee, we were appointed by the city council, by you guys. Maybe not some of you currently right now sitting in those chairs, but some of the prior city councils. This is part of our duty, which we gladly do. We volunteer for it. Most of us do not believe, because this issue has come up before, this question has come up before about a fee study, paying someone $5,000 to $10,000 when ultimately they're going to tell us you need to raise your fees. Some of these studies, if you take all that extra time and effort and money into account, it's not going to be a simple $5 to $10 raise. They're going to come back and tell us you need that 25% raise. You need that 30, 40, 50% raise. And at that point, what are we going to turn around and do when we still only want to bring it up maybe $5, $10 to make it manageable for the citizens of Livingston? Maybe, yes, within the resolution, we could put something in there where we could come back in 2 years from now, 3 years from now, sit together and have another open discussion like this and discuss the fees once again at that point. But I personally, and I know from talking to other people, that having a study like that does not seem, I guess, it's not a good idea when they're going to tell us already what we already know.
Do you want to say something?
I just wanted to comment, Mayor, that it is quite common for cities to subsidize the recreation fees, but it's just also a best practice to know how much we're subsidizing that department. So even though the study findings might say, you know, you need to raise your fee 25%, it is also a council's decision to raise the fee to a certain limit or a certain amount or threshold that the council feels comfortable subsidizing the program. So it's not a matter of, you know, like doing a study and getting the findings of what we already know, because we know that the general fund provides a subsidy, and it's an investment to our community. But we just want to also know, you know, like, what is the threshold that we want to know that, or we want to feel that we're comfortable with, and it will just, you know, like at what point do we say, you know, we need to look for efficiencies?
Thank you. And then, I mean, obviously, those are just discussions and ideas and recommendations to, you know, it doesn't mean that we would move forward with that. Because I know, to a certain degree, it'd be nice to just get it on paper and know exactly how much is being supplemented and have those details. On the other hand, it's like you said, Omar, like, obviously we know they're going to tell us to increase them whatever percent, and it's really up to us whatever makes sense to the population of our city. So why even waste that money? So, you know what I mean? So it's just ideas, discussions, and I think it's just important to for us to bring up these kinds of suggestions or ideas to talk about, and, you know, have a feel of what people think about it, and, you know, and it doesn't mean that we will move forward with that, but it's just another thing to really consider if that's something maybe we want to do or not. But I think right now, obviously we want to, I know how much hard work you guys have put into talking about these numbers and recommendations and efforts by not only the commission, but by staff. So I think it's a good step to move forward with this current recommendation, and then in the future really come up with a solid plan of how we're going to increase them on a regular basis, or look at fees on a regular basis instead of waiting for a long time. We have to have some kind of mechanism where it doesn't involve politics, or raising fees is going to mean that certain populations are going to vote for me and stuff like that. It should be just automatic review on a biannual or every 3 years, and that's knowing that they're going to increase and have that expectation. I think for the longest time, that has been an issue with politics, and afraid of raising whatever the case may be, because voters are going to be against it. But it should be something that should be expected by the community. As everything else goes up, obviously fees and services will go up as well, to be able to maintain the level of service that everybody deserves in our town.
And I just want to point out that we, as a commission, have worked so hard to get every penny we can to put back into the programs. So when we hear that a study is going to cost $5,000 to $10,000, we're like, save your money and put that back into our programs instead. We know what the studies are going to come, and they're going to show how much our program needs to be needs more money, needs to make more money. But as much as it should be looked at as a business, it's something so personal to the city of Livingston. Our kids are so personal to each one of us. I think everybody on here is a parent. Everybody on here is a full-time employee. So we have to, you know, take time out of spending time with our kids, doing homework, coming here, working at each one of these fundraisers to put money back into the program. So it's like, if you have $5,000 to $10,000 for a survey, can you please just send it our way instead? You know, because every time we do a fundraiser too, it seems like we always have to reach out to the same big donors over and over and over again. And that's kind of, you know, at what point are they going to tell us, you know, we can't help you this time. You know, we can't help you this time. So it's not that we don't want to work and, put opposition to having the survey done, but that's just kind of how we feel when we hear, they're gonna spend time on this survey, they're gonna spend money on this survey, when we're working so hard to bring extra money to the program ourselves.
No, definitely. I think being a volunteer coach for many years as well, I have the same feeling, as you do. But like I said, there's nothing that we're moving forward on. It's just another idea or another thought, and I think that's valid and okay to bring that kind of suggestions and all that good stuff. But I totally. I mean, I've been with you guys where we've done fundraisers and we had to cut stuff and it is very personal to me as well. So I totally get it. Where I would rather have those $5,000-$10,000 go to the program. So I get your guys' points, and like I said, it's just important that we bring up ideas, and it's the perfect, venue to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree with her as well. I mean, I'm not against a study, but right now we're in a situation where pretty much so much in the hole where right now it's not a good idea for that. But I mean, once we become more self-sufficient, I mean, that's a good idea to how we can expand more programs. Then at that point, I think it's a better idea for a survey, just to help us in the big picture. But our current stance right now, we're kind of, taking away jerseys from coaches, which is not. I don't agree with that, but I mean that's what it came down to. It's either that or.
Well, hopefully we don't have to. Hopefully we won't have to do that.
So I mean, right now that's my opinion in regards to the whole survey. I mean, that's something we would like, but we're not in the situation right now where we can.
Yeah, and I think we're all in agreement. I know from talking to Vanessa, I know that. I mean, it's not the right time. I mean, that's a great idea. I think it should probably, like you said, eventually happen. But right now, I think moving forward with your current recommendations, it should be important. And eventually, definitely have something, more detailed or more, look into it more in different ways. But no, thanks for everything, all the work you guys do. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yes.
Since I have everybody here, with the general plan and all the update, everything coming about right now, the commission has gone to every single park site, and I think you were a part of the original when you were, but we now have all of the parks master planned on what they would like to see, but we would like to have a meeting with you guys too for input on it before we say, oh, this is what we want to do, because there have been some things such as the skate park that has come up. And there may be things that the residents have talked to you guys about that we need to consider in the different park master plans. So if we could not go too much longer, because I'm not sure what the schedule is for the general plan update, that we could include the parks in and meet with you guys prior to that happening.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because I know we've had actually a discussion with Vanessa about a skate park, and it's absolutely doable. It's totally doable, especially we're gonna have some kind of surplus. It's just finding the location and planning for that. So I know there's other people trying to work towards that as well. I know other groups that we're trying to organize. I know we've been working with the ATV kids, trying to locate a place to ride, and then that'll be actually a good discussion, because I know we've been working kind of behind the scenes with them and trying to find a place for them. So there's a bunch of kids that are using the ATVs and just want a place, so we've been working towards that as well. So yeah, it'd be great to have a meeting and just kind of talk about what you guys are thinking and what recommendations you make on each park.
Okay.
When did you guys go out? When did you guys go out and check out the parks?
It's been a year.
I know we went out like maybe 2 years ago. Was it that one or after? Oh, was that one? Okay. I thought you guys went and didn't invite me.
We had a meeting where we had all the park plans up and then discussed everything from the walk and actually put it into place.
Okay.
Lighting, safety stuff.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. So yeah, we should definitely get together again and talk about that specifically. So as far as now, you feel comfortable of the direction we have given? Jackie? Vanessa?
I think everybody's nodding their head, yes. It is, I just so appreciate you guys willing to meet with us because I feel like this builds stronger relationship because we are a part of your team.
Yes, you are.
So,
Absolutely.
if we work together to make things come true, then, better for all of us and the community.
Yes, I agree. Any final thoughts?
Yes, real quick. I just want to say thank you to the commissioners. I know how hard you guys been working. I see that at the meetings, and I see that even before and after the meetings. I see you guys at all the fundraisers, and unfortunately, I have not been able to be there. A lot of times before the fundraisers, or only during the fundraiser activities, but also in regards as being the advisor to the Teen Advisory Council. Those kids have been excited to be part of this and report to you guys. And they're always very excited when they have an opportunity to participate and volunteer alongside you guys. So I just want to say thank you once again and for making this a priority. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 7:30 p.m. Do we have